This is Capsule on liveandlimbo.com. My name is Sean Chen.
And I am Andreas Babiolakis. This is an adventure into music, film, and pop culture.
Happy New Year. How's everyone doing? One and all. Andreas?
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well. Everything's been good. It's a bit surreal that we have wrapped up quite an eventful year for all sorts of mediums, music and film. It was actually quite a terrific year.
I would very agree with that. And also joining us is Dakota Arsenault. How's it going, man? Happy New Year.
Wait, what year is it?
2026.
26. Wow, I slept for a long time. That was a long New Year's.
Yeah,
Jeez.
You missed a lot.
I know.
Kanye released like 50 albums.
And I bet you they are all the greatest things ever released.
No, actually, they all bombed.
I don't believe that. You're not from the future.
Nah. You doing good?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. I thought that 2015 was a really exciting year, and I think 2016 might be even more exciting, if that's even possible.
Absolutely. Andreas, so like what good foods did you have? What was the highlight food that you had during your break?
I thought you were going to ask during the year because I was going to say, Sean, I eat like 5 times a day, and that's
I do remember when you downed that whole bag of Doritos, or was it Cheetos, going to way home?
Oh goodness, yeah, no, it was Doritos. I completely forgot about that.
And then once we got there, I'm like, "Can I have a chip?" And you're like, "Oh, we're done." I'm like, "Oh my god."
Because I asked you during the trip, I was like, "Do you want any?" And you said, "No, I'm okay." And I don't know, I was on a mission.
Yeah. What about during the Christmas 2015 Christmas? What did you have? Turkey?
No, actually, I reserved turkey mostly for like Thanksgiving, that around that season. I spent some time with the family when we went to the keg. We went to Baton Rouge. So I guess
nice.
The item of the season was steaks of various sizes and varieties, but all rare.
Okay.
That's all that counts.
Oh, wow. So. How about you, Dakota? Any good foods?
Oh, that's tough to say.
I heard you're gluten free.
It was for the month of December, and I wasn't totally strict about it because I still had some gluten things like some cookies and some beer every once in a while. But for the most part, I was gluten free for the month of December. It was actually really good.
I had turkey for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and I had steak for New Year's Eve. So,
fancy.
Were you tired of turkey?
Who gained the most weight here? Did you gain any weight?
I'm sure I did.
Yeah, you just don't want to measure it. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the number on air.
That was my Christmas present for myself. It was to make myself obese, I guess.
That was the swag you got for Christmas? Weight?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. It's not too bad, though. So if you are a constant reader of Live and Limbo, then you will know that some big things have happened over the last month or so, last few weeks, month, at Live and Limbo. So our Sarah Ricks has retired or left. I'm going to say retired, but that sounds weird because she's not old. But anyway, she left after 4 years here, and she's been our music editor for about a year and a half. She is one of the most passionate and well-respected people in the Toronto music scene, and she will be missed, but she is off to new adventures, and I wish her all the best. Fortunately, we have an amazingly awesome team and backbone here at Live and Limbo, and so Dakota Arsenault, congrats on stepping up to the plate of being our new music editor, and you will be taking over the monthly Toronto concert and music tip sheet. And Andreas, you are our valued and awesome film editor, and you will be taking up the film and Blu-ray tip sheet. So congrats, Dakota, on your new role. How do you feel?
This is all news to me. This is the first I'm hearing about it.
Yes, right now.
Thank you for surprising me.
Flash promotion.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. I'm not going to be able to do it the same way that Sarah did because she went to an ungodly amount of shows every year.
She told me 262.
This year on 2015?
Yes.
That's insane. that's almost a show a night. That's absolutely craziness. And I can never in my wildest dreams expect to do that sort of thing. So what I hope to do is, share some of my tastes and my interest and love of music with people, and lead a great team that we already have in place, and hopefully offer some great original content as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this also allows us to really I think 2015 was the year where we really stepped up, and now with this change we can really I don't even know what the word to call it, but really solidify and filter and curate things better. So before, Dakota, you were the associate editor and you were doing the film tip sheet, but now I think it actually makes more sense that our film editor, Andreas, you do that. So good for you for that.
So what does this mean? I have to stop hosting a film podcast?
No. I think everyone here is multi-talented and stuff like that. But I think it's just if you're the new music editor, you handle the music tip sheet, and that's the flavor and the trend of the month for that category. And Andreas, you will do the same for it's you own that tab.
Perfect.
Andreas is probably more qualified than I am to handle that stuff. He definitely watches a lot more movies than I do, so it's in really good hands.
Yeah, and both of you have good taste in both music and film and all other pop culture aspects. Andreas, you're cool taking up this role?
Yes, absolutely. And I was just going to say, first off, thank you for thinking I'm more qualified. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I appreciate that sentiment nonetheless. So hopefully I can do as good of a job and make it as charismatic and exciting as you made your tip sheets. And I also wanted to say, I was joking about what I said before. You, Dakota Arsenault, have already brought in a lot of new, refreshing ideas and concepts to both the site and the music section as a new music editor. So no, it sounds like it's that section's also in good hands, and it's not just being passed over from Sarah's role, but it's also being reimagined a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. So yes, again, congratulations.
It's a new start. Yes.
I'll try not to burn the site down.
But Andreas, I have been since January 1st, I have been watching a film a day, and they're based off of your top films of 2015. So I'm on the good track for the Oscars.
Oh, thank you. So
you're gonna be a guest?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, I'll be the guest, and that will be on your Contra Zoom podcast, which we're plugging. Yes. So
watch nothing that I predicted not being the Oscars. It's going to be strictly stuff it
will be Polaris,
Fast and Furious 7, for instance, Vin Diesel predicted.
So I just want to recap the top 3 things from Live in Limbo in 2015. Not things, but features in general that have happened. So number 1 is our original content has been featured on the Rolling Stone, Billboard, Huffington Post, and literally hundreds of other well-named and branded websites from all over the globe. This further cements Live in Limbo's position as one of the best independent pop culture resources in Toronto and the world. So that's cool. The entire team. That's good. We landed exclusive interviews. Oh, this is kind of interesting, but since we have been around since 2009, but we only really started focusing on the video interviews 2 months ago in November, and that was when Dakota, you did churches. That was I count that as the official start of when we started focusing on video interviews. So what are your thoughts from that point till now? When you're looking at our website, the video interview section.
It's growing quite a bit, and that churches one was definitely a pretty big name to sort of kick it off, if that's the way you're counting it from, because I know you had done interviews on Capsule before, and it's Andreas had done interviews here and there, so did Katrina.
You did Walk the Moon at Way Home before too.
I did. But all those seem to be more focused on being content for Capsule rather than strictly because it's a video interview. But we still did film them, obviously. But yeah, I think it was great because we went in, you had a great sort of setup with the 2 cameras going on, and you edited them greatly. So it sort of gave us a bit of a style to work with. and starting with churches being as big as they are, who played 2 sold-out shows at Danforth when we were covering them. So it was kind of crazy that was the way we could kind of kick it off. And then since then, it seems like we're having like 1 to 2 a week of, you know, either established big names or of people that, you know, a year from now we can look back and be like, hey, remember when we interviewed them right before they blew up? Well, you know, we know good people when we see them, when we hear them. So we're going to make an effort to figure out who these next big things are and get them while we can, because, you know, you can't always get the biggest rock stars in the world. They don't like interviews or don't have time for it, or they're very selective and things like that. So it's great that we can kind of predict who is going to be big. I think one of them will be like the Rory one. So I think that's someone who, like, I'm pretty familiar with now for a couple of years, but I think in the next year he's really going to get huge.
Absolutely. And I think it will only get better. We have great hosts such as you, Andreas. We have Mahek Saeed, who's amazing. And we have a whole bunch of other people too. And we have film cinematographers like Olivia ready to help. She's like super great. And we're only getting better. Everyone's getting more lights, gear, better interview techniques. It can only go up from here. And Don Hamilton is going to be doing a few more interviews for us as well, being our new digital producer, but we'll talk more about that in the future of her role exactly. Number 3, our unique and one-of-a-kind podcast, which you're listening to right now, Capsule, actually reached number 1 on the music theme shows in iTunes earlier this year. We love connecting with artists, people in the industry, all that good stuff, and it will only get better from here. And of course, ContraZoom is taking off too, your baby, your film podcast. And are you enjoying doing that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It sort of just started with a bit of a twinkle where I was wondering how to incorporate more film stuff, and Andreas, being the other big film guy, sort of bouncing off ideas. Originally, there were some. The idea sort of stemmed from wanting to recap and watch all of the previous Best Picture winners. And at first I thought about doing some sort of collaborative article with Andreas. And then, you know, after bouncing off some ideas, I sort of settled on probably the best way to do it would be a podcast format.
There's something just easier, not easier, but I won't say anything is easier because you have to do like editing and stuff, and you're learning that as well. You're improving with that. But podcast is just a way to naturally flow versus text writing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we do a bit of planning beforehand. We take notes. We kind of discuss a bit of how the format's going to go and things like that. So it's not exactly like super on the fly. And it sort of started out as a bit of a, okay, well, let's try it out, see how it goes. We'll make a schedule of some big things with sort of being the centerpieces, these Oscar countdown episodes where we go decade by decade. But now, you know, I think we did well enough the first, you know, few months. We're at 11 episodes now, something like that.
That's right, yeah. And they say that the hardest part of any new podcast is getting to 10. So you've already accomplished that. Congrats.
Perfect. And then so like now that we're basically at Oscar season, it's going to be a lot easier. We're going to have a lot more topics to talk about, and we still have plenty more of these Best Picture countdowns to go through. So, you know, we definitely have content for the next little while. I'll give a little plug right now, but our next episode is going to be about, we have 2 ones coming up. We're going to do a Oscar nominations reaction, and we're going to have a Star Wars sort of special one that I don't want to talk too much about, but we're going to talk about The Force Awakens and some other stuff.
Which I still have not seen yet, which is amazing. That mystifies many people.
As of this time recording, I have not either, but by the time it comes out, I will have seen it.
January 9 right now. I still have not seen it. Anyways, I will eventually.
Sean, 'cause that's right.
I know. Everyone thought I would be the first one there. But
well,
anyways,
you could be the last one.
Yeah, maybe. But okay, I'm really excited about our film section and where Andreas and you have it going, because I think we have a lot more connections now. Our reputation in the film scene here in Toronto and in the world is increasing steadily. I'm looking forward to getting more or hearing more like actors and director interviews on your show, if you can get that up.
Yeah, I think that's something to work forward to. I think we had a couple of opportunities. Our second episode featured some great interviews, especially with David S. Goyer, who wrote the upcoming Batman versus Superman
like that.
movie.
Yeah.
But at this time, it was better for us to sort of build our format and get better at it before we just try to focus on every episode getting interviews, especially since we didn't know how often they would come around. So we didn't want that to be the basis of what every episode would be like.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so we're going to recap 2015. So as you've known from the website, we have been posting our staff picks, best of 2015 from all of our editors and writers and photographers. You can find all of that in the features menu and go down to staff picks 2015. It's all there. And we're going to run through, I'm going to say the big five questions from all of these surveys from Andreas and Dakota and myself. So it will be asking the favorite album, song, which artist won 2015, biggest news story, and what you're hoping for in 2016. So Andreas, you're up first. What is your favorite, or what was your favorite album of 2015 and why?
Well, I know I talked about my favorite song and album, I think, a plethora of times on Capsule as well, but I guess I'll go into it briefly again. This time not nearly as long and bloated, I guess. Carrie and Lowell by Sufjan Stevens, which I think is his best album. I actually just listened to Illinois, which I grew up on when I was a teenager, and a lot of people consider that his opus, and I still feel that as great as that is, and as whimsical and magical as it is, Carrie and Lowell just is on a completely different planet. I mean, it had to have been to be the only thing that could have beaten To Pimp a Butterfly for me. So it's still, as moving as it is the very first time I heard it, it still captures different emotions that I don't think are easy to capture by most other artists. I think it's his least enormous album. No, but it's easy to come close to it with that album, and I'm not like that with music. With films, I'm a mess. I get emotional very, very easily.
I cried in Inside Out.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for that, but that's the thing with Carrie and Lowell. It almost feels like in Inside Out, without giving too much away. It's let's say like just the most emotional aspect of that film. Yeah. It's like that sense of wanting a connection, except in Carrie and Lowell, there isn't really a bright spot. There might be some just to get Sufjan Stevens by, but he's still stuck in the deepest pit, and he's trying to reach out. Whereas in Inside Out, it's a Disney film. They work everything out, but in Carrie and Lowell, you're scared that Sufjan's going to be killing himself by the end of the year. That's how depressing it is. So.
Yeah. Wait, actually, that's a quick question I want to know. Has any album made you cry, or song?
Ever?
Yes, ever. On the first go.
Not on the first go. That's the thing. When it comes to music, it might have to be the context.
Because it's like a passive thing, right? Music is like you're doing something else sometimes, most of the time.
Well, no. With me, I think Dakota's the same. A lot of the time, we'll actually just sit down and just do nothing but that. Just listen.
Have you cried, Dakota?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think of any too. Have you cried in a movie?
Yeah, of course.
Why do you think that's different? Because it's visual and you're like totally focused on that, but with music, some of the time you're doing something else?
Probably.
Well, with music, it could be a lot more interpretational. With film, a lot of time you're literally seeing what's going on and you're building a connection with these characters, right? With music, because it's so interpretational, like if you put on a Bowie album, let's say, I'll just mention him because he just came out with one. He's got his own character.
Which is pretty good.
No, it's quite good, actually. I'm really into it.
Looking forward to your review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got a bunch of different characters that you've got to come to learn, interpret what the lyrics are trying to say. And I know not every album or musician does that. They don't all create personas, but with film, you're literally sitting there for like either an hour or 4 hours or 5, depending on how adventurous you're going. Some films are 10. But nonetheless, you're sitting there for so long, getting to know these characters that if the director manages to pull off what he's trying to pull off, you're done for. You can't hold it in because you'll be blindsided with an album. You get a variety of different songs that you can replay. It's a completely different format and an adventure, I think, which it gets some people crying, but I don't know. It gets me emotional.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever cried to music though.
That's fine. Dakota, how about you? What is your favorite album of 2015?
This was so tough for me because it came down to two albums. Everything after that, I basically consider an honorable mention at that point. So like my 3 through 10 could be interchanged, and I wouldn't really argue that much if someone switched it around on me. So it was really, really difficult to pick. In second, I hate saying this now, but in second place, it's Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly." Like that's an absolutely game-changing album, and will go down as one of the most transformative, not only hip hop but albums ever made, as far as artistically creation, everything it has going on. But for some reason, I kept trying to put it below it, but I kept feeling like it was wrong. So my number one album is Jamie XX's In Color. And it really came down to listenability for me. As fantastic as a piece of artwork that To Pimp a Butterfly is, In Color is just, such an album that
you can grind to it.
I guess you can. That like, it's just so well crafted, production wise, that like there is no part of the beat that is not perfect for what it is supposed to be doing. And for a dance album, it's really introspective and like really makes you start thinking. It's not so much a dance record as sort of like an ode to going out and dancing and what you're feeling when you're dancing and the thoughts that go through your head and things like that. So it's such a fantastic album. I know I differ very slightly on where the songs are. I know Andreas said the best song from that was Loud Places, where for me, it's probably Gosh. I know some people think, I know there's going to be Good Times, but like you really can't go wrong with any song on that album.
Absolutely. Mine was actually your number 3, which is Drake's If You're Reading This, It's Too Late.
It's great.
Yeah, I love this album. I think it's really refreshing, and it's like it's about him. I've mentioned this many times before on previous episodes, but it's like he finally reached the top of the mountain, and all these people are trying to take him down, and he's just like, "Screw you all."
As somebody who's not a big Drake fan, I found 2015, unfortunately, the year that I softened as much as Drake would soften, and kind of like Drake. And I think this album was a big reason why. It's not even an album per se; it's a mixtape. And for me, even so, it had a lot of what he's trying to achieve with music being fully realized. I thought it had a lot of his best songs. It was his most cohesive, I think, because usually I'd kind of get tired of listening to the album. No, I would agree with that. Not as my favorite of the year, but
it's like in the top. Yeah, it's really hard to put anything in your top. That's why I asked top 3 in the survey. But yeah, it's like this solidifies him, right?
It's so crazy because like Nothing Was the Same to me was a fantastic album and one of the best hip hop albums when it came out that year, and it really sort of propelled him and transformed the way a lot of people thought of him. And he could have followed that up with either something similar or whatever it was, and he just sort of would have maintained that, top tier level. But then he released this album where there's not, the album has not a single hook. There's no real choruses to any of the songs. It's, for the most part, a slower album. There's no really fast beats or anything like that. And yet for some reason, everything about it just sort of works so perfectly together. And for a song with no hooks, it's incredibly catchy.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. That's awesome. All right. So Dakota, what was your favorite song of 2015?
I mentioned it earlier when I was talking
Yeah.
about Jamie XX, but I got to go back to Gosh. That's a song where it went from a really good one to me to when my girlfriend got me the record for my birthday, and I was playing it, and I was just like loving the way it was sounding coming out of the speakers. And I was like, oh, this got such a good bass beat. So what I did is I cranked up my bass knob while keeping the volume sort of low and sat close to my speakers. And there was just so much more depth to it when I turned up the bass beat. It was a completely different and new song to me. It just had so much, like the song sort of sounds sort of slow-ish as far as a dance song goes, but like the bass beat feels more like a heartbeat than music. And
So you like a heavy bass for this song?
For this song, yes. It just works. It sort of transformed the song for me, just cranking up the bass and keeping the volume sort of at a decent low to medium level. And it was just sort of like the bass was enveloping me, and it felt more like Jamie's heartbeat in the song rather than, just a thumping beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally
and it's
agree.
super catchy. And then like by halfway through the song, it changes completely. And, the oh my gosh part is no longer there. And it becomes this sort of existential world beat song, and no longer this like London grimy dance beat.
A lot of people they will say that their favorite song from In Colors is Good Times. I love the sound of it, but when you read the lyrics, I'm not a fan of it. It turns me off big time.
It's definitely a bit of an odd one, and
I think the lyrics actually ruin the song.
You're not a fan of Speed Racer?
No.
You're not the only person to say that. I think the sample on Good Times is possibly one of the best samples of last year. And when he does it live, he plays the sample song in full.
It's like you want to play it at a pool party, and then you can't because there's kids around. It sucks. I wish they should make like an instrumental version of it. I'm pretty sure that exists.
I'm sure there's like a radio edit, radio edit of it too.
Oh, there's that will be heavily edited then. Anyway.
It would just be an instrumental.
Yeah. So my favorite song of 2015, people make fun of me for it. I don't know why, but it's Major Laser's "Lean On." I know it's an EDM track, but like I just find Diplo so enigmatic, and I finally got to see him live. That was with you, Dakota, at Block Party, Mad Decent Block Party. And
Mad Descent?
Mad Decent.
Mad Descent?
No, that's what I used to call it, and you corrected me. Yeah. But anyway, so I just find the beat of it, it's so good. And Mo, is it Mo or Moo?
Mew.
Really?
Yes.
It's either, Sean.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, there's like a O with like a arrow through it, a line. Anyways, so yeah. Anyways, that the lyrics for that song and the way it was delivered and produced was like, how can that not be the track of the summer? And Spotify solidified my theory on that. And yes, there we go from there. Did you guys like that song?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't know if I liked it as much as you, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. My pick was more in Dakota's area.
What was yours again? Yours.
Mine was also Jimmy XX, who apparently is unanimously the songsman of the year. Apparently, I have to agree a bit with Gosh. I think for somebody who's not too heavily into a lot of EDM, which this is barely, as Dakota was saying, it's a very different album of that aspect. But as somebody who was told, "Hey, listen to this album. It's of this nature," I think Gosh was the perfect way to sell it to somebody who might have been a bit weary. Great way to start off. But mine was Loud Places, which featured his fellow XX member Romy, I believe.
Homie?
Yes, it is.
Romy.
Is it?
Romy,
Okay.
Romy.
The whole album was good, and yes, including the Young Thug Juvenile verses, but I feel like this was the best part of the album and of the year because it felt like the most delicate part of the album, like the most emotional, the most perfectly layered, perfectly produced. And for me, that was like the hit of the summer, but well before it was even summer. Like it lasted throughout the entire year, and I could put it on 1,000 times and I would never get tired of it.
Very cool. All right, Dakota, which artist won 2015? Who took it home?
I think there was a lot of really big artists, that were sort of doing lots of great things. And I was reading all the other staff surveys, and a lot of people had some really interesting stuff to say. But I think anyone but, the success of Kendrick Lamar, I think that's the only right answer. You took a song, he took an album that for the most part, it does have some commercial songs, the way I was first released, sort of King Kunta. But other than that, there really isn't a lot of commercial viability to that album, especially when you listen to it all the way through and you're connecting all the themes. And yet somehow it was by far the biggest, not necessarily biggest selling wise, but, the biggest as far as game changing album throughout the year. And then at the end of last year, around this time, he started being announced as the headliner at a bunch of music festivals before the album even came out. And a lot of people were like, he has one album. How can he be headlining a festival? And then, To Pimp a Butterfly came out, and everyone was losing their damn minds. And he headlined 2 festivals I was at, Bonnaroo and Way Home. And you guys were both there at Way Home.
Front row.
And
yes.
He just absolutely destroyed that stage. Like there's now points in my concert going experience of before Kendrick and after Kendrick, and now everything afterwards has to be compared to him, because that was a definitive headlining performance. And then he also managed to raise the profile of everyone around him. Thundercat became more of a household name for his appearance on the Colbert Report and stuff like that, playing bass. SZA, who's a member of his crew, who's also now getting a bit big. Flying Lotus was more of a mainstream name. Isaiah Rashad was a new guy he signed. Kamasi Washington, who's a saxophone player who made a 3-hour album. Like he made everyone bigger around him, which is pretty crazy to do.
He took it to 11 or 12. Which one did he take it to?
He took it to 11.
Okay.
That's what he was saying,
yeah. He basically, it's kind of ironic, his mentor is Dr. Dre, and he basically has done the most Dr. Dre thing, because that's what Dre did when he was coming up. And, he managed to elevate everyone, but that was more from a production standpoint, and knowing the best talent. And Kendrick seems to be doing the same thing, where everything around him, is turning to gold.
Absolutely. I think Lana Del Rey did really, really well in 2015. She managed to change all the perceptions of her, but also Adele. You can't ignore Adele. She came back, and I think she pretty much won 2015 as well. How about you?
I'd have to agree with Dakota here. I do agree that Lana Del Rey finally has done enough to shrug off a lot of the unnecessary hatred. Yeah. I think before there was a little bit of a reason people were disappointed. There were the blatant performances, but then I felt like a lot of it was just attached magnetic pessimism that wasn't necessarily warranted. I think now she's done enough to finally get herself to a position where she's comfortable. And Adele, to an extent, did break a lot of things. She broke the internet. She broke record sales. She ended up making it the easiest to go to platinum album in years. So. No, she's done quite well as well. But I have to agree, and I think it was a perfect way of putting it was saying that he's basically his own teacher right now. He's Dr. Dre. He's brought all of these new people. Well, not even new, because a lot of people have been in the scene for a while, but he's brought attention to them directly. And I also think it's worth noting that he probably is a big reason why Compton was the album that it was, because you can either hear him actually on the album, or you could definitely tell that he helped ghostwrite a lot of it, and a lot of the influence came from there. If anything, he even influenced David Bowie's new album, where while recording Black Star, Bowie and his team said, let's listen to Pimp a Butterfly and see how they utilize jazz here. and make it fresh.
Oh,
Let's
that's
try
cool.
that.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, but To Pimp a Butterfly was its own beast. It was like this orb of all of these different themes and sounds and styles kind of falling into one another like a snow globe, where each flake will hit the ground and resurface as you shake the ball again. Like it's not even like a straight up story. It's this universe that's been created. But then you see him on stage, and it's not like he's sitting down and being introspective. He's being a completely different performer. He's being alive. He's being all over the place. He's exploding the entire festival. When you said he took it home, I mean he took it way home, because when he
Yeah.
fronted that festival, I don't think anybody, no matter who you name, even the veterans of that festival, would have come close to setting the festival ablaze like Kendrick Lamar did. And even stuff that wasn't even on album, like his late night performances. He just did another one like a week ago, which won't even be featured on any album. Even those are being sent viral. Like these aren't even songs or singles. It's just Kendrick being Kendrick, and even that's setting the internet ablaze. At this point, he is so on fire that he simply is the hottest. You can't think of a single rapper right now who's mainstream and as talented, as in control, and as ambitious. You can look at somebody like Drake and see him setting the world on fire as well, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
He could fight with Meek Mills as much as he wants, but if you were to put him up against Kendrick, I think even he would be like, whoa, hey, hang on a second. I'm not going to do that before it's too late. I'm going to step back a second, and not get into anything there. Like if this was the 90s or the mid 2000s or even the 80s, you could think of a lot of people kind of being neck to neck. Like, is it Tupac or is it Biggie? But right now, in this point of time, I don't think anybody could deny that it's Kendrick. Like, there's no competition.
Absolutely. And I think he's been mentioned by both of you, Dr. Dre. I think he has to get credit where credit's due. I think he was probably the technically most successful artist of 2015. He's the first billionaire, I think, rapper billionaire or musician in general. He sold beats.
No, he's the first rapper billionaire, because McCartney was a billionaire.
Oh, really? Is he still a billionaire?
I don't think he is.
Oh, poor McCartney. Too many lawsuits. Too many wives.
Too many ex-wives.
Too many wives, I think, was the issue.
But you got to give credit to Dre, and he raised many people, including Kendrick, and Kendrick is now raising many people too. So like it's like a domino effect of goodness. And he sold beats to Apple, super creative and entrepreneurial, and bling bling money money, send it our way. Yep.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that the whole Beats thing is a big reason why.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And plus, there was probably the NWA movie, which certainly helped.
Yes, and Compton. And so Dakota, since you like heavy bass, you should get like some Beats headphones now.
I'm good.
Okay.
I like my Bose.
Oh, and Bose is okay too. I use Bose. All right. So this wasn't a question on the survey. On the survey, it said, what was your most underrated album? But who do you think is the most underrated artist who didn't get enough recognition for what they did?
Oh, that's tough, because like my most underrated album was Hot Chips Why Make Sense.
But artist.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'll start off then. I'll say it was probably Carly Rae Jepsen. Because
I thought you got a lot of recognition.
I know, but not. Yeah, so I'm gonna say even Grimes too, because listen to it's like they did really well critically, but they're still not massive. Like they can't. There's like this barrier where they cannot punch through.
I think Grimes, because the album just came out, she kind of solidified the huge indie fan base she already had. But like, did you see how high she's listed on Coachella's lineup? She's fairly high up. I think this is sort of going to be a bit of her coming out.
I don't really think that the lineup was that super great to begin with.
Well, I don't mean that. What I mean is like she's highly placed, which means she's going to get a prime spot.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, because Coachella put her so high, other festivals are going to start booking her fairly high as well. And I think this is going to be sort of like her coming out. I don't think it's going to be as big as what Kendrick's was last year, being the headliner. But that sort of thing where she's going to become a lot more visible and noticeable to a lot of people. And her album just came out, so I think it's kind of too soon to say that like she was underrated.
But Andres, remember that Time festival we went to that kind of sucked with all the rain and Action Bronson, but the only shining moment was Grimes headlining.
Well, that's the thing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Grimes has had one of the most impressive growths I've ever seen. Like if you look at a lot of
but she's
live
still
videos,
not there yet. She's not like out of all of
she will be.
I think she will be this year. Like her album just came out, so I don't know why.
But do you think it will be like, so for me, I've mentioned this before too, there's like people like Courtney Barnett and like St. Vincent, like at those kind of artists, St. Vincent is the only one that's actually broken out of that barrier.
But it took her some time though. Like she's in her 30s now. Like I still think Strange Mercy is her best album, but it's her complete Bowie-esque reimagining of her self-titled album with her aesthetic, the gray hair, the alien android look, all of that is what's propelled her to.
So is that what it takes?
Not necessarily. I think Art Angels might have been that because again, she's being placed higher. She opened for Lana, which is huge. Like a lot of people got introduced to her, and again,
but she's still an opener. She's not a headliner.
But that was last year.
So we'll see.
She's doing her own shows now, and they were selling out and everything. So
yeah, even we didn't get in. Damn it.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like she topped. She wasn't even just featured highly on a bunch of lists. She topped a number of lists too, song-wise or album-wise. So she's getting the recognition. She's certainly getting a lot of the fan base. I truly believe that.
I just think she's still underrated for the amount of where she should be. But as you said, she'll get there. Yeah, she'll
fully discovered. Yeah. Part of the thing is you have to appeal to the mainstream as well. And when it comes to Carly Rae Jepsen, she was critically praised, but a lot of people might have been expecting, her one-hit wonder kind of stuff from earlier. The fact that this is very different, it might not sell as much, but that's the thing. You've got to separate sales from critical appeal because sometimes the things that sell the most aren't the best.
Well, who do you think was the most underrated artist of 2015? Who do you think did such a good job marketing and music-wise, but did not get there? As they should.
That's tough. I'm gonna have to think about it for a second. My album was Half Free by U.S. Girls, but I don't know if I would say that about the artist because I think I have to think of the bigger picture. Dakota, do you have one yet or no?
No, I was just gonna say I think like your rationale seems a bit off from what the definition actually means. Like underrated usually means that like it just doesn't have a big enough audience, not that like the marketing didn't click or things like that.
The whole package.
I know, and that's why I think the Grimes, I don't agree with that at all because she is still relatively new. Her first album wasn't that huge to begin with, so it's not like it was a massive disappointment. I get what you're saying with Carly Rae because like her last album was huge on the strength of one really popular single, and then with her new album, they went with the lead single being "I Really Like You" or whatever that song was called, which is way too similar to sort of "Call Me Maybe," that sort of bubblegum cutesy, really really repetitive song, and that sort of turned off a lot of people because a lot of people are still sort of sick of "Call Me Maybe" as much as some people do love it.
I thought you said you love that song.
No, I'm not. I don't really like it. I really like her new album, Emotion. I think that her label went with the wrong lead single and went too poppy instead of.
It's actually called Emotion.
Instead of the growth that she actually did as a songwriter and a performer and all this sort of stuff, where her pop music isn't quite so mainstream, but it's still that sort of poppy-ish sound. So that's why, like, if you said Carly Rae Jepsen, I would go, yeah, I agree. But I don't think Grimes on any level is underrated. I think she's at the level she's at, and she's about.
No, but that actually means I think she's deserving of even more. But she'll get there. As you said, it just came out. So
yeah, like it just came out. You'll see her. She'll be at all the summer festivals. She'll be a lot bigger. She's like, if she plays at Way Home or something like that, she'll probably be like. She'll probably be, maybe the fifth or sixth name on the lineup.
But not the headliner.
No, and she shouldn't be the headliner.
Not yet.
Like, Kendrick having 2 albums is still a bit of a stretch to be a headliner.
Yeah, like Sam Smith headline too. So
yeah. Way Home, I think, is a little bit different. They managed to make it work. But it's not like Grimes is playing the ACC already, where Sam Smith was.
Yeah, that's true. All right, what was the biggest news story of 2015 for you, Andreas?
I think it's going to be quite an agreed upon decision with mine. And I swear I've seen it on a number of other staff pick lists. So I don't know if it was on either of yours, but obviously the Paris attacks during the Eagles of Death Metal concert, because it wasn't just a strike against, against civilization in such a uncivil way, but a lot of people have brought this up. I saw Mike Gallagher saying something similar, and I think he's got a point there. It's especially depressing at a concert, because that's usually the place that people let go. They save up a lot of money, for that one concert that they want to go to. Like back before I was able to review, I was in that position as well, where it's like, okay, I need to save up this much money so I could go see My Bloody Valentine, so I could actually say that I've seen them and witness my favorite band live. And there were a lot of people at that concert wanting to see Deftones or Eagles of Death Metal. And in France or other parts of Europe, a lot of bands don't necessarily come there that often. So everybody was there just to see and witness the music that they love, that gets them through their everyday lives the most. And this absolutely barbaric event happens. And, of course it could have happened anywhere and it would have been upsetting, but it's especially relevant to music, not just because of where it took place, but, the fact that it was all these people were there for their one united passion. And while you'd think that it would have completely severed that, and people would have not wanted to go back at all, like U2 actually turned down the HBO thing where they were going to record a concert there, it started to turn around. You started to have some bands that just didn't care, like gore metal band Carcass went back right away and they said, screw it, I don't care if we get killed. And you had a lot of other bands wanting to go back. Even U2 finally turned around and said, this isn't bigger than us. We need to speak about peace, not about the war that happened here. So they went back, and Eagles of Death Metal reunited with them on stage. There were a lot of people that were killed that united the world. Like there was one merch member that united a lot of bands. So they started a lot of foundations and charities towards this. And because it happened at a music event, it united a lot of people, because music online is a very quick avenue. So a lot of good things came out of it, despite the fact that it was a complete utter diabolical, massacre, but a lot of good came out of it, because that's the strength of the music community. When there's a need for good, they come right away within large numbers. So at least you can see some humanity out of this, despite the fact that it was probably one of the worst events of the year.
I totally agree with you there. The terrorists kind of like stripped away the fundamentals of like finding joy and your right to enjoy life in that way. And so like you made a good point where many people they save up for these shows. Like I don't even remember that, because I've been doing reviews and going to shows for such a long time through the website as press. I don't remember that saving up being a burden kind of thing. So at least you can relate to that. That's good. And many people do, like they've saved up for many, who knows how long, how many paychecks they've put aside money for to see these bands. And then that moment was taken away from them. And who knows how many other shows were canceled. And it's great that bands like U2, the big ones, they said, we're going to stand up to them now. And yeah, it's pretty big. But like I said, I think your biggest news story of the year is probably the biggest one, like in general. Mine's kind of more of a first world problem, where mine was like streaming. That was the biggest news story, because that kind of affects how people get their music and stuff like that. RDO went bankrupt, and we have new ones like Apple Music and Spotify. They're still battling it out. I think streaming is very important, and in that how we consume the music. But yeah, the attacks in Paris is probably the biggest, most impactful news story of the year. How about you, Dakota?
Mine is nowhere near as serious as that. I agree that was probably the hugest thing, but for me, it was the return of D'Angelo.
Yeah, that's totally different.
Yeah, way different. A little around this time last year, just at the end of December, he dropped Black Messiah, and it was a really great album. I don't think anyone expected to be as great as it was after so long, because anytime that an album takes so long to come out, the more disappointing it usually ends up being. Whether it's because you're either hyping it up or, sometimes an artist is just messing with something that works for so long that it's no longer good. But for some reason, this album just works so well. And he sort of changed the way now publications are doing their best of the year list. Normally they start releasing them, mid-December or so, but now they have to make sure that any big acts that might drop an album, that they have to wait until it's done. Specifically, the big one was Animal Collective, because they weren't sure if that was going to come out in December or if that was going to come out sometime in the new year, which obviously didn't come out. And as soon as they basically got the okay from Animal Collective that it wasn't coming out, all the publications started releasing their best of the year lists. So that's sort of interesting that he's able to kind of reinvent that, because, surprise albums aren't a new thing in these last few years, but now surprise December albums sort of throw everyone off their game, that they can't, just rush to conclusions, because who knows, maybe the best album comes out, December 20th or something like that. And I also really liked how, this sort of goes back to Kendrick Lamar. I think the two of them were, their albums were talking about the same issues, but they approached them very differently. So it's sort of like two sides of the same coin, which was really great to see. That, you sort of have the more introspective, angry version with Kendrick's To Pimp a Butterfly, and then you have the more expressive, outwards, let's deal with this as a society sort of Black Messiah, as far as what it means to be a Black person in America in 2015 and beyond.
Absolutely. So Dakota, you shared a link with me from Stereo Gum. My next question will be what you're hoping for in 2016, and this article kind of relates to that, but do you want to summarize what Stereo Gum said?
It was just basically the 101 most anticipated albums of the year based on, what they like. I've seen a few of them. A few publications put out something similar, but this one seemed a little more comprehensive. I can argue with some of their listings with, they have Japandroids being number 2. Well, as much as I really like The House That Heaven Built, I don't think that Japandroids album is on the top of my list of most anticipated albums. But, it certainly run through some really big ones that we're really excited to see. We were expected to get a bunch of these big albums last year, and we didn't. And so it makes the anticipation of them coming out this year even bigger. Like, what happened to Frank Ocean? So much was supposed to happen, and he sort of just completely dropped off the face of the earth, I guess burying himself in the studio or something. But come on, man. Release your follow-up to Channel Orange. I think we're all eagerly awaiting like that. That album has now almost become like a classic album, it seemed. It was so long ago.
Yeah. So he's their number 1, and then Kanye is 3. Drake is 5. Haim is 6. Run the Jewels 3 is at number 7. How come Radiohead's only at number 9?
I don't know. I don't know how.
10.
I like if their number 1, 2, 3 was Frank Ocean, Kanye, and Radiohead. I'd go, yeah, that makes sense. Those are easily in the industry the 3 biggest albums that will come out next.
PJ Harvey too. She's on the list.
Yes, absolutely. And she recorded her album to a live audience. She did some experiment where she allowed people to see the recording process, and that's supposed to finally come out, which is exciting.
I'm excited for Lord. Lord's at 13 here. Actually, remember when we were talking about buying tickets? That was like the last show that I actually bought a ticket for.
Well, there you go. You might have to do that again.
No, that's
Comes
not
back
happening. I'm not waiting in the line again.
About Friend, and,
I'm excited and nervous about what Lord's follow-up is going to be like.
It's probably going to be very electronic.
Like, her first album worked so well for sort of reinventing the pop genre, and I hope she's able to reinvent some more. But
it's probably going to sound like a Disclosure album.
And I didn't really care for their second album, and I love Disclosure. Like, I'm super obsessed with them.
Okay, so like, who actually, besides this article, who are you hoping to see in 2016, Andreas?
Well, outside of the article, I didn't read it fully, so I don't know if they're mentioned.
But just for
Chromatics,
you, Chromatics. Yeah.
Chromatics have reneged on a deal since last February, where Dear Tommy was supposed to come out, and all of the songs that have been featured off of it so far have been some of the best stuff that they've put out. Period. So a bunch of us. Well, not me, because I'm not very loud on the internet, but a lot of people have been, spamming the Chromatics page, the Italians Do It Better page, the Johnny Jewel page, anything that Johnny Jewel's affiliated with, and asking, where's Dear Tommy? This was supposed to come out Valentine's Day. Where is this? Enough with the lead ups. We want this right now, because it could be one of the albums of the year of that kind of scene, so we're waiting on that. But at least one of my other big picks, Animal Collective, we have a tentative date, or no, a certain date actually. It's in February, and we have a great lead single that's one of my favorite songs of theirs. Actually, it's undeniably catchy and to the point, and I'm excited. I can't wait to see what they've done with this, because it looks like they have a very clear approach to what they're doing this time around. With Cinnamon Hurts, it kind of didn't age too well, because a lot of it was just a miasma of sounds, but with Painted With, which is what the newest album is called, they have a certain theme and style and message to come across with it, which is kind of incorporating specific styles of artwork within music and mainstream culture, but non-mainstream styles of artwork, like Dadaism, for instance, hence Flora Dada, I guess, the lead single. So it's exciting. I can't wait to see what they do with this, and it could be a fine album from Animal Collective.
How about you, Dakota? Who are you most anticipating for 2016?
Oh, Chance the Rapper. I've been in love with his mixtapes for a couple years, and then his Social Experiment album that came out this year was 2015, last year. I gotta stop saying this year. It's January. It's the middle of January almost. And, I've had, I think, 2 opportunities to see him live, and I bailed on them both times, and I super regret that. So not only am I really excited for his album, I'm also really excited to finally see him. I will see Chance the Rapper this year, and it will be amazing.
It will happen.
So for all the other Live in Limbo writers that are listening, I will be the one that will be covering that show, calling it out.
Well, you're the music editor, so yeah. Anyway, so I'm really looking forward to Radiohead, since like Live in Limbo is actually named after one of their songs. So of course, Radiohead. Looking forward to Haim, actually. I have not seen them live. I want to. And of course, Lord. Yeah, I might buy a ticket again.
Like, really, 2016 has a whole bunch of really
looks
big
really
names. Good. Like all the ones that you mentioned, possibly new XX, The Strokes, Grizzly Bear, James Blake, maybe new Beck.
That was a great show. When you mentioned Grizzly Bear, when I saw Radiohead live, Grizzly Bear opened for them.
Oh, yeah? That'd be pretty great. Like, there's so many,
Tegan and Sarah.
Tegan and Sarah, what's the Viet Cong going to do now that they're going to be changing their name? MIA might come out with something new.
Ariana Grande.
Yeah, like there's... I think we're all in conclusion that she's sort of our guilty pleasure. You more so than Andreas and I.
So many. Alice Glass. I'm actually looking forward to her. Her and Crystal Castle should be coming out with new stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So that'll be exciting as well. And hopefully the Avalanches will finally drop their album, which they've been working on for how many years? Because, D'Angelo's finally done it. Dr. Dre gave up on his album and did a new one, so he did it. Come on, Avalanches, where are you? It's since 2000. Yeah. Come on, guys.
Wait, Andreas, whose side would you be on? Alice Glass's or Ethan? Like when they come out with both their new albums, whose side would you be on?
as big of a fan as I am of both, I think they've both handled this situation very pettily, like in a very petty sense. And for me, it'll be just about the music, but I'm certainly not sticking to one or either
I'll see
side
both.
because I think they've handled it very poorly, to be honest.
Very
no offense, I love
yeah.
Crystal Castles.
So there's many, many exciting things on the horizon here from Live in Limbo in the new year. There's going to be so many new video interviews, more podcasts. We're going to be talking to so many more artists now that we're doing all these interviews now. And we're introducing new playlists with the Little Mix. And we're including the Method sound now. That's by Jeff Arsenault, your brother.
Yeah.
It's an electronic playlist because I think EDM is it's like a new big thing now, and Live in Limbo needs to embrace it. So he's our resident DJ, aka Method Tricky. I can't make that sound cool, but yeah, you can follow the playlist on our menu in Live in Limbo on the tab and click Method Sound, or you can go to mixcloud.com/liveinlimbo. There's going to be 2016 is going to be amazing. Can't wait to see it and share it and experience it with all of you. Andreas, where can all of our listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Andreas Babs. And actually, later today, I'm kicking off, I think, the first video interview of the year.
No, that's already happened, but you're one of the first, yes.
One of the first video interviews of the year with The Birthday Massacre, who were actually the first show you ever shot.
That is true.
I think things are going to come around full circle, and that's already a big way to start.
Make sure you mention that. Make sure you mention that.
I will, absolutely.
And Dakota, where can everyone find you?
You can find me in a couple places. Once again, I'm going to plug the ContraZoom podcast. That's right here on Live in Limbo. Follow that on Twitter at ContraZoomPod. But you can also follow me on Twitter at DGAPA. And I know I sort of, if you look over my timeline, it's a lot of retweeting stuff about baseball, but I promise this year I'm going to start actually doing more original tweets and stuff of my own. I've been trying to make a bit of more of a concerned effort about that and less baseball retweets as much as I love baseball.
Yeah. And you can follow myself on Twitter at Sean Chin. You can follow the show at Live in Limbo. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes. Give us 5 stars. Leave us some nice words in the review section. And as always, you can find the show notes at liveinlimbo.com/capsule. Take care and have fun in the new year. Did that rhyme? Yes.